Ah, yes, my glorious Amazonian princess. Are you ready to... Oh my god! Who are you? What are you doing here? I'm just looking for the bathroom. You wouldn't happen to know where that is? I don't know, man. Wait, I recognize you. Wait, aren't you one of my students? Sticky, Becky? It's Ricky. Yeah, whatever. Well, Sticky, you can't be here. I have a date scheduled with Olga and her finest collection of femboys. It would be really nice if there wasn't some shifty nerd in here stinking the place up. Why do you smell like Axe body spray? It is 2024. Hold on a second. Hi. Oh, hey, Olga, what? Alright, oh, thank you for calling. Well, shit. She says she's gonna be like 28 minutes and 4 seconds late, which seems like a very strange and specific amount of time, but yeah, what do I know? So, wanna kill some time? Fuck it, let's kill some time. What do you want to talk about? Data analysis. We really didn't do much last time. I'm scared that I'm falling... There's something petulant about a lot of seinen manga that I've been finding more and more endearing the older I get. When I was a kid, growing up in a household that wouldn't even let me touch anything with a gun, skeleton, or any vaguely unchristian themes, you just kind of get drawn towards stuff like this the moment you see it. It pulls you in. Some of it sticks with you forever and slots into your psyche in very meaningful and positive ways, and some of it you can only look back at with mild embarrassment. I don't know if embarrassment is the right word exactly. It has too much of a negative connotation. The implication isn't that I don't want anything to do with these anymore now that my tastes are more refined or whatever. It's the exact opposite. It's because my palate has widened that I can appreciate these more. A lot of seinen manga in an attempt to come off as more adult often end up feeling more childish, and that shit rules. For me, growing up was accepting that I'm not cool, nor will I ever be. I talk about cartoons on the internet and argue about hip hop. I know who I am, and there's a lot of freedom in that. Not everything is going to be Berserk or Takemitsu Samurai or Himizu, and that's fine. There's a beauty that comes with creativity expressed at this level of freedom. That unabashed sincerity that comes with creating stuff that sometimes just does not land. Anyway, here's some moments from those manga that have burned themselves into my brain for a multitude of reasons. Some good, some life-changing, some neither of those two. Let go. I'm gonna catch the flu, so I need to record this before it gets worse. Like anything else that was created in the 80s in the world of manga, Berserk borrows greatly from Fist of the North Star. It's the story of a quiet but deadly man wandering through a ruined world, killing his opponents with his weird fighting style. It follows in the lineage of that Van Damme action Schwarzenegger type shit, seen through the eyes of a dude who grew up on Tezuka. There's one important difference between the two though. In almost every fight Kenshiro is in, he's the A1 predator in that interaction. You know it, he knows it, the ground he walks on trembles with the same knowledge too.
Say the line, Bart!
Guts is not built like that. He doesn't have that dog in him, so to speak. Well, he kinda does, but it's a different kind of dog. Losing to him isn't being outplayed by a master swordsman, it's being on the wrong side of a car accident. He's relentlessly cruel to the demons he fights, which couldn't be more different to Kenshiro's reserved lethality. Kenshiro isn't mad at the people he kills, he doesn't hate them, he doesn't feel anything. Why would you have any strong feelings towards the ants under your boot? Kenshiro is the ubermensch of the post-apocalypse. In every instance of Guts being cruel or vicious is him coping, just like every other nihilist out there. After Guts has killed the apostle hiding in this village, after he's condemned this girl to the same life of death and revenge he's destroyed what's left of his soul chasing, he breaks down and cries, if only for a moment. I love this panel so fucking much, man. I've never understood the people who find it funny. I mean, sure, the 3/4 angle on the face is a bit wonky, but it serves its purpose perfectly. Up to this point, Guts has been an asshole to everyone who's tried to get close to him. He's edgy and brooding and cruel, which makes sense when you read the rest of the story and realize that all this, the edgy big dick cannon and demon mouth man, isn't really who he is. In those first few volumes, it's him absolutely coping. It's a front. He's Matthew McConaugheying his way through Kaled. It's the most vulnerable he ever gets after surviving the end of the world. This arc in general, and this panel specifically, is the fulcrum of the entire series. Everything you are going to read for the next 300 or more chapters is to explain why this guy is such an asshole, and what got him here on this floor, covered in demon blood, crying like a child. Berserk's tender moments are few and far between, and seeing the blood warrior persona crumble to reveal this scared little child, all alone in the world, having the endless suffering he's endured his entire life catching up to him is so beautiful, man. And it makes me sad that I will be cold in the grave before we get a real, full adaptation that involves the Black Swordsman arc. Like, earnestly. You don't count, fuck you. Wait, I just realized, this is just like the last scene in the first season of True Detective.
But I could still feel her love there. Even more than before.
Huh. Oh, this one is also sad. Shit, okay. Jagaaan is a seinen manga written by Muneyushi Kaneshiro and drawn by Kinsuke Nishida. It follows the story of one Shintaro Jagasaki, a dead-eyed psycho and a loser who spices up his menial and boring life with fantasies of transcendent violence. So of course he's a cop. His entire job is harassing teenagers for loitering and having pedestrian sex with his even more pedestrian girlfriend. Like, she's barely a character. In the process of both writing and recording this twice, I forgot that she turned into a crazy scorpion monster halfway through the first volume, cause like, that bitch don't matter, like she's, oh my god. Every woman in this story is so badly written, it's hilarious, with the exception of one, that is the delivery guy who transforms into this woman by subsuming her. That part is especially weird because for the rest of this manga, you're flipping between mid-tier seinen fight scenes and a Shuzo Oshimi manga. Like, I don't have the knowledge or the skill to write about this shit in any meaningful way, so I'm not going to. I'm not trans. You can watch Keiko Cat for that. She's got you on that shit. Anyway, Jagaan's life is changed forever when supernatural frogs rain down from the sky and burrow their way into people's bodies, giving them supernatural powers. These powers manifest in one of two ways. In a moment of extreme stress or anger, the person with the frog in them becomes overwhelmed and transformed into this twisted version of their greatest personality flaw or deepest desire. And if you're lucky or protagonisty enough, that power manifests as an extension of your will and you become like a Cronenberg-esque superhero. Hence the titular Jagasaki's gun. Now, since the amount of misery the person is feeling is directly proportional to the strength of the transformation, you have these moments of people having just a really bad time, just in the depths of their depression, going through it, and them blowing up becomes this national cataclysmic event. Now, let me set a scene for you. A mother is in a cram school office meeting with her son's teacher and the headmaster of the school, and she is pissed. She protests that the teacher calling on her son all the time is bullying and her poor son shouldn't have to endure such unimaginable hardships at school. And the teacher apologizes because of course he does. He's a Japanese cram school teacher, which sounds soul crushing. He spends his days toiling away teaching students who don't care and having to deal with their parents when they inadvertently fail. The next time the mother comes back, she is mad that her son's marks are not as good as she expected. The same son she coerced out of participating at school. She's so mad in fact that she transforms into this hulking kangaroo monster and punches the headmaster's head into a pink sludge, after which she pulls her son into a kangaroo pouch only for the two of them to be gored in half. The cram school teacher has been scarfing down abuse from parents and students silently for years. He's unappreciated, underpaid, and it's been weighing on him. All this stress comes off as a nervous tic, a hiccup that he gets scolded for by his boss, so he swallows it too. He swallows it until he can't swallow anymore. When the mom goes off and kills his boss, his stress level spikes, and since the depth of his despair is much deeper than whatever this bitch has going on, he transforms into this deformed, gluttonous crocodile and starts eating. Which brings me to my favorite moment in this manga. Jagasaki responds to a distress call from the school expecting, a one-shot interaction, only to come face to face with this. I love this panel so much because until now all you've seen from these monsters is Alan Wake Taken style dialogue, and suddenly bam! Just this deformed, sobbing beast gorging himself on the corpses of his former students, languishing in his sadness in the decrepit bloody halls he's wasted his life in. It's so beautiful, and it doesn't matter what Jagasaki throws at him. He's a good teacher. He's endured all of it. Headshot? Easy. He can just grow a new head made out of his students' body parts. It takes care of that shit no problem, because that's what good employees do. You adapt and overcome. His fight with Jagaaan is so good. In between him taking Lovecraftian buckshot to the face, he laments his poor treatment and how his passion for teaching was thrown in his face. He wonders what the point of it was, and he dies having never figured it out. Aesthetically, the scene where Jagaaan finds this dude and the fight that ensues is the highest point of this manga without a doubt. After this, the art gets a little flat and lifeless with the exception of the fight scenes and the final Chekhov's gun moment at the end of the manga because, it's literally the end of the manga. It's not great for a lot of reasons, but I still think you should read it. It's interesting enough that you should experience it. You can decide later if it's not for you. Shigahime follows the cartoonishly tragic story of Osamu Hirota, a relatively normal high school kid who gets roped into a life of blood and murder by his classmates, all over the promise of some ass. For a while now, Tachibana, the classmate in question, has been luring out the kids in his class to this mysterious mansion at the edge of the neighborhood with an actual on-guard horny local singles in your area type bit. Like, yeah dude, there's this totally rich girl at the edge of the neighborhood who lives in a fucking mansion who wants to fuck snot-nosed high schoolers. And they all fall for it because they're stupid and they're teenagers. In the mansion, they do in fact find a busty pale lady in lingerie who rips their hearts out and drinks their blood. And the latest in this little scheme they got going on is Osamu. However, on a whim, the busty pale vampire lady, Miwako is her name, decides to kill Tachibana instead, making Osamu her slave because in all her centuries of life, she's never once been rejected by anyone, and she wants to own this kid who would dare reject her and to destroy the girl who is the root cause of this rejection. So she ties him up in her basement and injects him with her blood, turning him into her familiar, a ragged, beastly creature condemned to fight for her for the rest of his unnaturally extended life. Now that he needs blood to live, and without it he looks like a walking, shambling corpse, he can never go back to his regular life. He is stuck with Miwako forever. Shigahime is weird to read, not because of the contents of the pages per se, although they do have their moments, but for most of its run, especially the beginning, it has this petulant vibe to it that makes everything a little less good. It aspires to be unself-consciously edgy, but it doesn't pull it off especially well in the beginning at least, but as it goes on, it sheds a little bit of that self-consciousness and really becomes what it kinds of strive to be. When more interesting characters enter the fold, it stops being too tryhard and enters a point where it can properly be itself, and it also helps that it's drawn by an absolute beast. Even when the ideas or the characters being communicated to you are terrible, they are expressed with so much skill that you can't help but get swept up in it. It's one of the most adolescent things I've ever read without a doubt. It's a very hateful story, which works great because if you're looking for a visual depiction of pure white-hot hatred, nobody does it better than Hirohisa Sato. I mean, look at this. I read Shigahime once in 2018 and only reread it when I started working on this. But I have not stopped thinking about this image. Every 2 months for like 5 years, it just comes to me like a hot flash or a vision from a malicious god. I don't think anything in any piece of media has ever communicated the raw emotion of fuck this nigga as much as this panel right here. This nigga is a born hater and it's written all over his face with an incredible amount of skill. Sato draws his characters with such grit that even the dumbest things can carry a kind of weight that you kind of have to respect. The character designs for the familiars are so beautiful, their lines are immaculate, they feel like bloodborne bosses. I love the contrast between these two especially. Every frame they occupy together feels like a wall scroll. There's a bunch of character moments that look like this in Shigahime, and I think that alone is reason enough to read it. But I remember that first one not only because of the genuine pain behind it, but because of how this busty vampire lady gave Tachibana's life meaning and how lost he felt having that ripped away. And in every single page, this makes you feel it in your bones. It might not read like it on first go, but Shigahime is really a manga about how much loneliness hurts no matter how much of a monster you are. It's a story about fucked up people who want more than anything to be held and understood by someone unconditionally. But they're so broken and so cruel that they can never have that, but they can destroy themselves and everyone else trying to fill that hole. Because if you're powerful enough, you can make people love you, right? That's how that works. Hirohisa Sato is an incredible artist. Inyo Asano is what Darren Aronofsky thinks he is. If Asano wanted to, he could make Requiem for a Dream easily and it would be better too. But Aronofsky does not have the delicacy necessary to make something like Oyasumi Punpun. Why is he calling it Oyasumi Punpun? Cause it sounds better, nigga. Blow me. That thought of Asano as a better Aronofsky is one that I want you to rotate inside your head slowly because it is the best way to make sense of his single volume follow-up to Oyasumi Punpun. Downfall is the harshest self-criticism I've seen in a minute. It is twice as bad as the Here's Some Facts About You Thought Cabinet section in Disco Elysium.
You once jerked off in the locker room and were caught. You held a young woman by the arm and kept her in your apartment for 20 minutes against her will.
Downfall imagines Asano as a fucking loser, an ingrate who makes art as nothing but a way to validate his inflated self-worth and to rationalize his selfishness and cruelty. His art is less an earnest expression of his soul and more a commodity to be wielded as a cudgel in his personal affairs. Now I know some of you out here doubting me. You're like, oh, it's not the same person. Just because it's a mangaka doesn't make it automatically autobiographical. And to which I respond, bitch, are you stupid? Look at him. Look at his mannerisms. Listen to the way he talks. Look at the interactions he's having on the panels. It's just him. The hair is different. The face is a little different, but it's him. It's literally Inyo Asano. He's even working in the same office. It's just him. This little house of glass falls after he finishes his last manga, Oyasumi Sunset, which is a stand-in for Punpun. He hits a creative slump and loses his marriage and his assistants in the process. He's destroyed any meaningful relationship he's ever had, sacrificing it to the altar of his art, but now he doesn't even care about that either. And in that slump, in his lowest of lows, he meets this girl at his favorite brothel. Shifuyu is beautiful, she's interesting, she's smart, and he gravitates to her immediately. On top of being there for transactional sex, she satisfies some deep emotional need in him. A need he tries to coax out of his soon-to-be ex-wife by raping her. This is by far the most damning thing in this story, and it's the part where comparison between him and like the real life Inyo Asano starts to get uncomfortable for me, cause I don't feel comfortable putting that kind of evil on a nigga apropos of nothing. Shifuyu leaves because of course she does. She doesn't love this nigga. She has a full life, goals, and a sense of self not built on the circular Ouroboros of self-sucking penises that is his detestable personality. She sees through him and it terrifies him, and soon she stops answering his messages because they didn't really have that kind of relationship. Not really. Downfall ends the same way it starts, with Asano talking to the readers directly, telling us the story of a girl he dated while starting out, probably while writing Solanin. He tells us of how this girl broke up with him because he didn't get her, like really see her. He was so absorbed in his manga that the relationship was almost entirely one-sided, with Asano venting out the frustrations he had with his narrow-minded co-workers, his philosophy on manga, and how he fits in that legacy. She was really just a conduit for conversations he was having at her instead of with her. And it turns out that shit hurts, it sucks. She leaves him and tells him that he's a monster. All he can do as the girl reads him for filth is just stand there, at the end of his wit, wearing this half-disguised, half-embarrassed expression on his face. This is my favorite Asano drawing, hands down. The competition was tight, but this hits. This is immaculate, man. It's everything in this story distilled into a single image of the author. The scowl, the way his face withdraws under the scarf, his blonde dye job hair obscures most of his face, letting you only see the parts of the look that matter the most. If any one element of this drawing were changed, it wouldn't have the same effect. Asano isn't a man famous for his subtlety, but sometimes a single picture says all you need to say and so much more. Well, this might come off as kinda abrasive, but so? So? Fuck you mean so? Well, it sounded like you were building up to some greater point and then you just kinda stopped. Like, what does any of this have to do with anything? Motherfucker, this is the everything in question. This is it. This is the price of tea in China. Because the art is good, and despite its flaws, it captures something profound. Good art doesn't always have to come from good people as you or me would define them. If art is an expression of some common divine that lives within us all, then should it not follow that even the grimiest niggas are heir to that same fortune? Also, if I did my job right, Olga should be knocking on that door right about... God, I'm good. Now, get the fuck out of here.
Teenage Mutant in the whip, he spin like Michelangelo. For the hypes off a finger, stuffing pipes in the needle, rally stripes on the